Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen.
John. She's resigned. Your audio is off, John. Yes, it is. We're live.
No, it's not. I was just testing you to make sure the audio's up.
Yes, the audio's up. I haven't done the intro yet because I just thought it was too funny.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Oh, so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Another Prime Minister down 6 weeks later. This is Chasing Dissent Live.
I just don't.
You're all good.
And welcome, one and all, to Chasing Dissent Live, episode 145. On this momentous day. Something happened?
We couldn't get live fast enough, could we, earlier on?
Well, we kind of scrabbled to get there. It's just...
It's a joke at this point. I don't know whether to laugh, cry, or go somewhere in between, John.
Well, actually, I saw a tweet this morning that said, at this point, and this was before she resigned, it said, at this point, I'm just waiting for the guy who's running this simulation to reboot and say, well, that one didn't work out, did it? Because everything seems to be a shit show. Everything.
That is the state of British and American as well politics at the moment.
And what's all this crap about a Russian plane dropping a missile near an RAF plane over the Black Sea?
Don't know.
What the fuck are we doing in the Black Sea?
Don't know.
What's the point? What's the point? And secondly, it was 23 days ago. So what is it? Was it meant to be a distraction so that we didn't call for Lizzie's resignation or whatever? But obviously Sir Graham Brady had different ideas.
Sir Graham Brady, so he went into Downing Street probably about midday-ish. And I turned around to you guys and I said, that's it. It's probably over. He's gone into Downing Street. And what did our Adam say, John?
To be honest, I haven't really noticed. I haven't really read the chat. But to be fair, you said last night that the government had fallen.
I did say that. I said that last night. And I was right. Just as we pretty much always are.
You were right.
Yeah. Because this was supposed to not be a confidence vote. But then it was a confidence vote again. And then Liz Truss issued a statement at 1:33 a.m. to try and keep the government in check. How embarrassing. How embarrassing to have to do that at 1:33 a.m. Oh, everything's fine as it's all burning down around me. No, it wasn't, was it?
It's like Nero fiddling while Rome burns.
Well, what are we seeing here? We're seeing a leadership election to be completed within a week.
Well, hold on a minute.
That's what she said.
How long did it take the last time?
Well, the last time we had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds worth of taxpayers' money put into these vanity tours, these leadership debates. They went on for months. And then after all of that, Liz Truss emerged victorious. She was voted on by the Conservative Party members, and she lasted 6 weeks, John.
You know, it's just a debacle. How can a party that won with such an outstanding majority drive itself? I mean, and let's face it, can blame no one else. It has driven itself to the very depths of despair. It's disjointed, it's disgruntled, it's not pulling together, it's just an absolute shambles.
Well, you have to, first of all, to answer your question, you have to assume that that party is actually running the show. And, you know, I don't really want to go down conspiratorial territory here, but...
Without even going down conspiratorial territory, right? How can one assume that anyone's running anything when you see the crap that's coming out of Westminster?
I mean, we've had a budget.
When you see the crap that's coming out of Holyrood, when you see the crap that's coming out of that small bit of England that they call Wales.
Yeah.
I mean, how can anyone assume that anyone's running anything? It's just, the whole thing's a shit show. The whole system needs to be torn down, razed to the ground, and rebuilt.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, just look at the last 6 weeks. Let's look at the last 6 weeks. So we've had Liz Truss appointed. The Queen has died, right? So for most of, well, I'd say a good chunk of that time, she wasn't even doing anything to quote unquote run the country anyway. Then her Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, came out with this budget, if we could call it that, this mini budget, that promised a lot and delivered nothing. And within, I'd say, a week of that, they completely U-turned on all of it, going, oh, that's not sustainable. But in the meantime, managed to, with all the uncertainty, completely crash the economy even further, put house prices through the roof. I'm...
So Adam Brooks tweets this morning that we need a leader that can make decisions. Hold on a minute. Why do we need a leader? These people are supposed to be public servants. They're supposed to take the caretaking job of running the country and making sure that we don't end up in harm's way. That's all they're meant to do. We don't need a leader. We're quite capable of making big adult decisions on our own, you know. So you know what you can do with your big government? You can take it and shove it. You can stop stealing our money by taxing us for everything, and in most occasions more than once on the same products.
Yep.
Right? So you can stop that, and you can go away and lose your well-paying jobs with your ridiculous pensions that you get regardless. Yep. I believe Liz is now on to a pension of at least £115,000 a year.
No. Okay, that's not the case. She gets a budget of £115,000 a year to run an office that would engage things. She will probably never see that money.
Yeah, okay. So they don't need that money anyway. So the whole thing is ridiculous. You know, get rid of these people. They are nothing but parasites. They are leeches.
Yeah.
They do nothing but take, and deliver nothing. They're a waste of space, a waste of time, and a waste of thought. That's what they are. They disgust me.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. You all know what we think of government here on this show. Natasha says in the chat, John for Prime Minister.
Anyone who actively seeks PM or any political office should be disbarred from holding it.
100% correct. Luke Honeythunder says, I'm a fighter, not a quitter. This was Liz Truss's statement today.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Today is, I quit.
I quit. Yeah. Oh, dear. So there you go.
There you go. And with that, John, should we actually get into the show proper?
Yeah, go on, mate. Go on.
Let's just go straight away with our first news item. What have we got?
Okay, well, right. So, Uncle Joe.
Yeah, good old Uncle Joe.
Said something that made sense.
So, did he say it or did his teleprompter say it?
It doesn't matter. I mean, does it matter? It just somebody said something that made sense coming out of the Democrat Party. That makes a change. So it's simple. When the cost of oil comes down, we should see the price at the pump come down as well.
Yes.
That's how it should work. Yes, that is how it should work. It's how it should work in this country too.
Yeah, it's not how it works.
Yeah, but right now, refiners and retailers are making record profits.
Yep.
At the expense of the vast majority of Americans and UK citizens.
Yes.
Right? It's unacceptable. That's exactly what's happening. It's profiteering across the world.
Yes.
Nothing to do with Putin.
Nope.
Putin! It's nothing to do with Ukraine. It's nothing to do with any incursion in
Nope.
Europe. It's purely down to profiteering.
Yep.
That's all it is.
We know this. We've been saying this. We've been saying this for months. People choose not to listen. That's their fault.
Yeah. So Biden says that, and then his press secretary comes out with every day Americans are saving $420 million at the pump.
Yep.
That seems an awful lot of money. She's been caught out before, though, with the math. She's not too bright.
But she's not too bright, and she also quite likes to lie for him as well.
Right.
And so much as she'll be like, he's just staring at the floor for no reason.
Yeah. And then POTUS comes out with the next statement, which is he's doing everything he can to blunt Putin's price hike at the pump, and we're seeing results. Hold on a minute, Joe. On one hand, you said it's nothing to do with Putin, it's profiteering, and the next minute you say it's all Putin's fault. So, whose fault is it?
Jesus Christ. We all know whose fault it is. It's the oil companies.
It is the oil companies, because let's look at this critically, just for a second, okay?
Yeah.
So, let's say America imports 20% of its oil.
Yes.
Okay, so for every 100 barrels, 20 barrels will come from foreign countries.
Yep.
Okay. Now, off those 20 barrels, Russia supplies 8%.
Yep.
That's less than 2 barrels.
Yep.
So, no matter what price Russia puts on his oil, why is that going to affect the price that America's charging its citizens?
Well, it shouldn't.
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, it might put a penny. It might put a penny or they call it penny or cent. It might put a cent or two on the gallon, right? But it's less than 2 barrels out of every 100.
Yeah.
Come from Russia.
Yeah.
So your statement's moot. You're wrong, Joe. It's got fuck all to do with Putin. Putin!
Well, I will say this. Joe's rarely right about anything. The man does not know where he is 100% of the time. Right? And I think that's not an over-the-top statement to make. He stares at the floor. He looks for... he asks for people who are dead at events that are honouring the person that's dead. I mean, come on. Come on.
Yeah, okay.
Let's move on.
Oh, moving on. Let's go to Europe, where they are making a shit show of things as well.
Yes, they are. They always do.
So, they're now saying it's necessary to immediately terminate the contracts for the procurement of the vaccines that were concluded by the EU Commission to the tune of 71 billion euros, right?
Yeah.
Because the contracts are under criminal investigation by the EU.
Well, no, this is being said by one MEP, Mislak Cocker.
That's what I'm saying. A EU MP is saying that they really need to be They need to be stopping these things because they're under criminal investigation.
They are, because Ursula von der Leyen's made these contracts in secret, and by the looks of it, done it through less than official channels as well.
Yeah, and just keeping them quiet and not exposing the information. So how can you have any kind of democracy in Europe when there's no transparency?
No, you're absolutely right.
to be fair, there isn't democracy in Europe anyway, because as we've pointed out on a number of occasions, the people that make the decisions in the European Parliament are not elected. They're appointed. Nobody gets to elect them. They're appointed by their respective countries.
They are appointed, and even the MEPs, they don't even get to introduce or suggest legislation. It's just these people on the commission. The only reason the MEPs are there is to vote on legislation that is suggested by the people who are appointed, not elected. And if they don't get their way, and the MEPs vote against it, they just keep hammering them with it again and again and again until they do get their way. And they don't just do that to the MEPs, they'll do that to member states as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, Natasha calls it pseudo-democracy. I don't think there's any kind of democracy in there at all.
There's no democracy in there. And I mean, they don't hide this.
No.
They don't hide the fact.
No, they don't.
I mean, basically, the European Parliament's a bit like the House of Lords.
Yeah.
They can keep sending things back, but eventually you grind them down and they say, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And do you know what? What people don't seem to remember is people say, oh, we voted to go into the European Union. No, we
did not.
We voted to join a trading bloc.
Yes,
a trading bloc. It is not a political union that any... some member states
we voted to join the common market.
Yes.
And the clue's in the phrase, the common market.
The EEA, the European Economic Area, I believe it was called at the time. It was not the European Union. It was not a political union. It did not have a commission. It did not introduce legislation and laws onto member states. It was an agreement between nations to trade freely. That's what it was. That's what this country and many others that are currently within that union, I know we're not anymore, but that's what they voted to join. And what it's become was not democratic in any way, shape or form. It just merged. It evolved into this political union with this elected commission that seems to be able to chart the course of all of its member states arbitrarily.
Yep. Definitely.
It's not democratic, and it makes the idea that you have democracy within your own country, if you are a member state, a joke.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Speaking
does.
of coming back to our own country, so this
Confirmed.
to me... This to me was the letter that set the whole thing off. Because, as Andy said, this utterly stinks, an extremely tenuous reason to go. So when you read Suella Braverman's resignation letter, it was a tenuous reason for jumping ship. She knew what was coming.
Yes, of course she did. And do you know what?
And she threw Chucky under the bus.
Yeah, she did. And I threw this letter at you two, didn't I? At the time she put it out, I threw this letter at these two in the chat, and I said, "This is a letter that simply says, Liz Truss, your position is untenable. Go." And that is what it says. I mean, she doesn't directly say, Liz Truss, your position is untenable, but she says, when I make mistakes, I own it. And when and the right thing to do is resign. It's so loaded with it's telling her to go. It really is.
Yeah, I know. And this news has been superseded by events of just an hour ago, to be fair.
Okay.
Because we've now got, I mean, we've still got at the moment Hunt and Sharp sitting there, but who can tell what's going to happen now?
Well, what people have to understand is, so I said this morning that she wouldn't make it past Halloween because on Halloween.
Well, you said that yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah. So on Halloween, Jeremy Hunt is supposed to deliver this budget, this autumn statement, as the Chancellor. Obviously, he's not going to be doing that now unless the new Prime Minister puts him in place as Chancellor again, because we're going to have a new Prime Minister before then. However, I figured she might make it there because then they could put this budget in place because Jeremy Hunt is obviously the person leading this coup. It's quite clear to see.
Yeah, so this has been a more effective coup than the one that Rishi stitched up against Boris. Because although Rishi got rid of Boris, Rishi didn't get the position.
No, you're right.
And in some respects, that was a godsend because Rishi would sink the country faster than Liz.
Yeah,
at least Liz was just genuinely incompetent, whereas Rishi would be definitely on the fast track to the bottom. We'd be heading for the Titanic right now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But I don't know what's going to happen because
why didn't she just call a general election? Why didn't she go fuck you all?
This is what she should have done, and now we know that the Fixed Term Parliament Act has been repealed, so she has the right to do this. She should have called a general election. Yes, it would have been the death knell for her party. They would have probably been wiped out. And ultimately, we would have sunk financially faster than, Jimmy Hoffa at the bottom of some river. But I don't know. I think the only thing that a new Prime Minister can do to have any legitimacy at this point is call a Prime Minister. Because call a general election. Because Liz Truss said something in that statement that quite annoyed me. She said, I was not able to deliver on the mandate given to me by the Conservative Party, yeah? Well, no, the mandate that was given to this government was given by the general public based upon a manifesto. It wasn't given by a single party and its members. And people need... The party itself, the Conservatives, the Tories, Liz Truss, they're all forgetting this.
But this is where democracy doesn't work at all, because and one of the finest examples of this is our friend up here, Nippy.
Yeah.
Because she hates Conservatives. That's her words. She hates them.
Yeah.
Right? And that, I think, is a contravention of our previous what do you call it? Legal. What did you call him? So useless. He was the.
What was he? Home Secretary.
He was kind of version of that. So
yeah.
And he brought in that hate crime law, and she's really broken it by hating conservative voters.
Of course she has.
Right? So the thing is, but that doesn't matter. You're still supposed to represent these people because you're not the leader. You're an elected representative.
Yeah.
And these people can't get this round their head. They think they're in charge. And the problem is, the majority of us sitting outside this pantomime, this theatrical pomp and circumstance, right? The majority of us sitting outside that reinforce their opinion by not treating them as servants, but we treat them as the ruler.
And did you know what?
Effectively, you are ruled by people that you've put there to serve you.
Yeah.
So it's like going into McDonald's and just, the server they don't have servers in McDonald's, but it's like going into a restaurant and letting the waiter tell you what you're going to eat.
Well, this is it. Like, you go into McDonald's, you go into there, and they say, "You're having a fillet of fish today, sir."
Yeah.
I don't want that. No, but it's tough. That's what you're
getting.
No
bacon for you.
And you know what? You're paying for it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately, also, the people that reinforce their opinions then suffer under their shitty policies. We're all suffering because of all the stuff that these people do. I'll give you a very, very good thing to do right now. Get rid of that. Don't just cut it. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you want to take some money from it, drop it down to 5%. 5% VAT. Because you'll ultimately immediately open up the spending power, the general public. It will give us the ability to purchase more, and with that, you will still get a nice income on 5% because we'll be buying more. Little and often is better than big and hardly ever. Am I right?
You're right.
But, who do you think is going to be the next Prime Minister before we move on? Jeremy Hunt? Rishi Sunak? Well, we know who the party want.
Yeah, the party wants Sunak.
No, the party, the members, want Boris.
Oh yeah, the party want Boris. We know that. The public want Boris. I don't know if they've got the gumption to do it.
He's currently in the Caribbean, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, Caribbean's only 8 hours away,
Yeah, no. Adam seems to think they should put Gandalf in place.
Yeah, Adam's a bit of a tosser at times when he's overdone it again. I
love our Adam,
but it's very much a lose-lose situation in my view.
Yeah, we all lose. That simple. We all lose, no matter who wins.
You might as well just put Keith in.
You might as well.
Why doesn't he just leave the Labour Party, become a Tory, and then they can just install Keith?
But why would he even need to leave? Look at the last 2.5 years. Red, blue, they're all just freaking purple. They're all the same.
Yep, they are all the same.
Now let's move on to another shambles from last night, yeah?
What was all this about?
Fake news, I guess.
Well, but the fake news has to come from somewhere, and it's published in the mainstream media, albeit the free press. But, you know, so I genuinely think she probably did intend to resign and then thought, oh, well, maybe I won't. Or Graham Brady said to her, no, don't, because things are happening tomorrow. So I think I think she's maybe went, oh, I'm out as well. If Suella's out, I'm out. And then thought, oh, hold on. Things are happening. Maybe I'm not. Oh no, I never actually resigned.
Yeah, because it broke last night that the chief whip and her deputy had resigned.
Yeah.
And then this statement came out at 1:33 a.m. from Liz Truss saying, "I have complete faith in my chief whip" and all of that. And then suddenly she wasn't resigning. So I think it moves nicely into our next slide here, because it's once again another example of fake news coming out of the mainstream media. And you've got here something that's still trending quite massively on Twitter, I believe, as we speak. Aldi. Come on, tell us about Aldi, John.
Well, Aldi's not done anything.
But the mainstream media are saying that Aldi considers selling edible insects to help families through the cost of living crisis.
Aldi actually definitely said that they hadn't even thought about it.
So where's it come from?
Well, I can only assume it's come from the mainstream media.
The good old mainstream media.
It started on Channel 4, didn't it? Which, as we know, is just yet another propaganda arm of the British government.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So there you go. So, fake news from Channel 4 indeed. And then spread through all your mainstream media outlets.
But as you know, currently, and if anybody wants to clip this and put it on Twitter, feel free to do so, because currently this is trending on Twitter. With over, last check, 45,000 tweets.
Yeah.
And it appears to not be in any way true. So...
Yeah. So, you know what's going to happen, though, because Aldi will see this trending and then go, well, maybe we will consider it. So maybe they're actually going to make the news. Maybe the news is going to be generated by the mainstream media, and they're actually going to make policy decisions here for corporations. Let's see what happens.
That kind of sounds like a a journalist that joined the Mr. Widass, shall we say?
Yeah, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, he makes the news about himself and then sells the story to the paper, then writes the story.
Yeah, that's true.
Good old Mr. Widass.
Yeah.
Oh, that organisation is such a joke. Should we move on?
Anyway, yeah, let's move on. So these are the regions, and I meant to point this out the other night. Putin had declared martial law and medium reaction levels in certain regions of Russia and the areas that he'd annexed in Ukraine. And remember, according to America, we can't have countries going in and annexing parts of the world unilaterally.
Unless they do it, of course.
Unless they do it, yeah.
Unless they do it.
Yeah. So these are the areas that he's declared martial law in, which are obviously the ones in Ukraine. And then the other ones are in what they call a medium reaction level.
Right.
So I'm just pointing it out because I think it was quite interesting that he's upping the game. He appears to be also hitting them a lot harder than he has recently, because he's been using these kamikaze drones. So when they come from Iran and they have warheads in them and they drop them on Ukrainian positions, they're kamikaze drones. But when they come from Turkey and they have munitions in them that the Ukrainians drop on Russians, they're just drones. That's what it seems to be.
Speaking of Ukraine, we go to UA Reality Now on Twitter. And it says, it turns out that the hashtag Gherkin war criminal and responsible for shooting down MH17 was photographed at a gas station in the Rostov region. He is trying to get to the Ukrainian front lines. Ukraine has set a bounty of $150,000 US.
Whose money's that then?
Well, that's probably our money, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, the rain's coming on.
I'm going to say, I'm pitching to think that wherever you are in the world, John, it is raining very heavily right now.
Yes, it's coming down, much like Tesla's shares.
Yeah.
They've taken a tumble. So revenue for Tesla has fallen well short of forecasts. And really, that's not to be unexpected, because you got to remember that something like 60% of the world's rare earth minerals are actually in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can't do business with Russia because of the sanctions, you won't get the rare earth minerals to make your batteries, which power your electric cars. So, yeah, people are pretty screwed.
But the share price falling could also be due to the fact that Elon's probably going to have to dump a lot of those shares very soon, because he's going to be using them as collateral against his purchase of Twitter, which looks like...
Well, that's not what the headline says, and it's not what the story says. The story says that the share price has come down because of projected revenue. Right?
Yeah.
So that's nothing to do with him dumping shares. That's not revenue.
But
that's stock market manipulation.
But whilst we are on the subject of Elon and shares, it does look like he is going to close this deal. Twitter have suspended the stock accounts of all of its employees in anticipation of Elon Musk closing this deal. So we are now looking at potentially an Elon Musk-owned Twitter within the next week or so.
And then is he going to take it offline? He's going to take it out of the public hands, is he?
I don't know, but what I do...
Well, that was the intention, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it'll be a private company.
Private. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
it'll come off the stock market.
Yeah. So what we are hoping is that he does as he says, and he reinstates all the bloody banned accounts. But
yeah. Well, I mean, he made that tweet last night, which I saw this morning.
Yeah.
Saying that he will look after us,
and he won't let us down.
He won't let us down. Yep.
So it looks.
Speaking of letting people down, look what's happening in Europe, right?
Yep.
So natural gas prices have plummeted.
We knew this, yeah.
Right, from €300 per megawatt to €50 per megawatt, and sometimes in some places down as low as 25.
Oh wow!
Right. So natural gas prices and electricity have plummeted. That's a wholesale price.
Yeah.
So that should be reflected in the consumer price.
Of course it won't be.
Because at the moment, there is a surfeit of gas in Europe.
See, looking at this, I should be able to afford to put, 15 quid, 20 quid on my electricity, and it lasts a fair few days. It's not going to, though.
No, because they're not interested in helping you out.
Of course
they just
not.
They want to profiteer.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, this is why we should be legislating these things. And whilst I don't agree with legislation and regulation in many areas, I do in this, because if it's going to be ripping you off to the point of poverty and destitution, it shouldn't be allowed. So I think that there should be rather than legislating against, we could do the top end and say legislate against more than a 4% price rise annually. But also, the legislation should entail that when it falls down to these astronomical low levels, they are not allowed to make more than, let's say, 10% profit.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because when something's unessential, then you can't, and effectively in a monopoly or a cartel.
Absolutely.
You can't really, that economic forces don't work properly.
And do you know what? It would be so easy to do this if any government had the will. But they don't. They don't have the will because they can afford it. They can afford it. They don't care whether or not you can. Governments are not your friends. They don't care about you. They never have done. They care about power, they care about self-interest, and they care about as much as they can obtain for themselves. At the absolute, detriment to you and your family. They don't know you, they don't like you, they don't care about you, they never did. Correct indeed. Let's move on to Dr. Oxford and Rachel Clark. I don't like this woman.
I don't like this woman either, and I think that what she's saying there is a bit ironic, given the fact that she has done nothing but spread misinformation for the last 2 years.
Oh, she's done that several times, absolutely, verifiably as well. She says here, the scandalous and unfounded claim has been broadcast by former NHS Dr. Asim Malhotra. He still has a UK medical license despite his history of spreading anti-vax misinformation. I'll say again, at GMC multiple doctors have reported him to. So basically, what she's trying to say here is, I don't like the things he's saying. I can't verify that they're not true, by the way, because that's what he's saying. He's not saying this is 100% the case. He's saying he wants to investigate it.
Yep.
But he's saying, I can't say that they're not true, but because I don't like it, he shouldn't be allowed to practice.
Yeah, and why should she be allowed to practice when she has made verifiable untruth claims in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. She's made verifiably untrue claims on TV, in fact.
What's good for the goose should be good for the... Well, in this case, what's good for the gander should be good for the goose.
Or people in glass houses should not throw stones, Rachel.
No, they should not. Now, the next one's a bit of a horror story, right?
Okay.
And this apparently can actually happen. Okay.
I mean, that's a headline.
It's the New York Post.
That's a headline, John.
And I thought, well, that's an interesting headline. Obviously, it didn't really mean that, but no, she did mean that, and it did come off. Ugh. So it appears like half her nipple came off because it just wasn't getting enough blood supply, and basically it died and dropped off. So long story short, yes, it can happen. It's gross, but she still has a functioning nippy, as she calls it. Because although she said she would never breastfeed again after this occurred, she's gone on to breastfeed 3 other children.
Oh, so this didn't happen. This didn't happen recently. This happened quite some time ago.
It happened when she was like 16.
So this is one of them like sensational OK magazine type stories.
Yeah. That we love and appreciate from the New York Post.
We love and appreciate the New York Post a bit too much, I think.
Yeah, I think we do. We've got another one coming up from the New York Post.
But they are the gift that keeps on giving. I will say that. So we're going to move on now to Peter D. Clack, who has tweeted this.
Yeah, so it's not so much what he's saying, right? But what his YouTube channel is going on about there is cap and trade and how, it hasn't worked. Well, now, if there is an issue with climate change, cap and trade doesn't help it.
No.
Because all cap and trade does is allow you to continue to produce, in this case, carbon, as long as you can pay for it. So you don't need to offset anything or whatever. As long as you can pay for it, you can produce it. So you don't do cap and trade if there's a problem. What you do is you legislate to stop people producing and to reduce the amount that they're going to produce. So if you firmly believe there is an issue, you legislate and stop the production. You don't do cap and trade.
I don't need to say anything more than that. I think that's a very, very good explanation there. You told me about this.
Yes.
You told me about this.
Thank you very much, Tom. Look at that. Coffee, because my hair's a mess.
I tell you what, actually, during our gaming live stream the night before last, this very same thing happened to me, didn't it, John?
Yes, it did.
Coffee delivery during the show, and that's actually a good time to plug that other channel, which I will do. We have another channel called 100 Acre Swamp, and we have been spending the last few nights playing through the game Return to Monkey Island at 8 PM live on that channel. We are back for part 3 tonight. If we don't complete the game tonight, then we will have to return on Saturday to do it, because tomorrow night on this channel is Chasing Dissent All In live at it'll either be 8 or 9 PM. We haven't fully decided that yet, but that's a hoot. That's a scream. So we look forward to people coming along to that one. So, John, what do we have here?
So this is what the Scottish National Party thinks of you guys in England. This is what they think. They think Scotland is basically being abused and raped by England. Yeah. When, to be fair, you'll probably find that it's the other way round.
I mean, don't you guys get free prescriptions that we pay for?
Well, see, the problem isn't so much that. The problem is that the rate support grant for Scotland vastly favours Scotland compared to English councils. So we get our councils get a lot more money than your councils do. We are vastly overrepresented in Westminster because we have like 100 MPs for when we've got less than 10% of the population. So
yes,
I don't really think I should be pointing these things out, because it's it's like an advert for allowing Scotland to go. We don't want to go. I mean, we don't want to.
I mean, I will say this, right? And nobody in the SNP seems to answer this question. When you do go, if you do go,
no,
right?
We're not going.
But if you do go, John.
Yeah.
How are you going to pay for these things, like free prescriptions and free university degrees, as Belladonna here says in the chat?
There's no coherent way that Scotland could pay for these things. Scotland would become a third world country.
The bastard son says up there, she goes, North Sea oil. That's all she ever says. That's how we'll pay for it, North Sea oil.
How? Because North Sea oil at the moment is basically sold to American and British corporations. Okay, so yes, there's tax money, but that's not that's a tiny proportion of the profits that are coming out of the North Sea.
Well,
so
one thing's for sure, it won't be in ferry building.
No, it won't. And it won't be in whiskey either.
No, well, Belladonna thinks it could be in whiskey.
No,
but you never know. Let's move on from the delusions of the Scottish National Party, shall we? To good old Meghan Markle here. What does Meghan Markle want most out of life? Joy. That's really it. It's everything that we can work towards for ourselves, our friends, our kids, those around us. That would feel so good. And we do feel joyful. Of course you feel joyful. You got an unlimited supply of bloody money.
So she also wants people. Apparently there's somebody's making a movie about her, but she wants the actress that portrays her to show her joyful and playful side.
I mean, deal or no deal.
Yeah. So we've only got 2 things left.
Oh really? This has been a relatively short show then.
Yes, it has. But so
Chicken Tory Masala shocked curry fan spots the face of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson in his coma.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, he's made that himself.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't spotted it. He's made that himself.
No, he's made it. He's done not a bad job.
I mean, yeah, kind of. But, you know, this dude has made that himself. He's gone, oh, look, I've made a funny face in me coma. It's Boris!
But then the Mail Online goes and publishes it.
I know. They publish any old shite in the mainstream media these days, don't they?
They really do.
Any old shite! And you know, once again, Audi! Edible bugs!
So let's go back to the New York Post to finish the day off.
Right.
Right, so the New York...
Jesus Christ!
What?
I've got this story in front of me and I've seen the headline.
So the New York Post, right?
Yeah.
Brings us this, not from the depths of some inbred family in the deep south of America, but from Bedfordshire in England.
So they've named their daughter COVID?
No. They've named their baby after the COVID-19 pandemic.
So what they named her?
They've called her Lockie. Right?
Right, well, L-O-C-I.
L-O-C-K-I-E, Lockie, as in
Lockie.
lockdown.
Oh,
right?
Jesus Christ.
Because they'd been trying for a baby for so long and were so unsuccessful, but lockdown and furlough took the pressure off them, right? Allowed them to have plenty of time together and allowed them the pleasure of making this baby while everything was safe and sympathetic around them. So they've named the baby Lockie.
So basically...
This is the kind of people that put us out of jobs.
Yep.
That ruined our economy.
Yep.
That stood back and clapped like performing seals for the NHS. These are the people that have put us in the situation we are today.
They should have named her Recession.
Yeah. Or Depression.
Yeah. They should have named her after the thing that, whilst it was all safe and everything, caused. Someone just said, Belladonna just said, is that Owen Jones?
No,
I
it's
think
not Owen Jones.
I'm not sure that Owen Jones likes the sex with the ladies.
I don't think he's of that persuasion.
No, I don't think he would like the boobies, John.
Yes, indeed. I don't think he would even take a precautionary wife.
Also known as a beard.
So, actually, there's one thing, I don't have a slide for it, but I'll bring it up if I may.
Go on, then.
It's about that lawyer that committed suicide in Wales.
Oh, yes.
The one that worked for the council. That, they made a big hoo-ha about. He wrote the COVID legislation, well, for Wales. Yeah,
no, he didn't know, did he?
He didn't do anything. All he'd do is read it and rubber stamp it.
Yeah.
So this guy was in trouble well before the whole COVID thing, because they go into his mindset and everything in some depth.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what they're trying to do here.
He was very depressed by the looks of things. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was put into a managerial position.
Yeah.
In the council, and some people are just not set out for being managers or for being leaders. No. And if you put someone who isn't into that position, then you got to recognise that and move them back out, because some people just can't do it. And that's when they take the pressures on, they load themselves up, and the next thing you know, they're dangling from a tree in the wood, or swallowed a tub of pills or whatever, and they're no longer with us. But really, these people shouldn't be put into these positions, because I know it's often said that people are promoted to the point of where they're incompetent. But in some occasions it's true.
No, you know what, you're absolutely right, and it is a damn shame at the end of the day. It's a damn shame when someone goes and takes their own life. But
yeah, of course it is.
They are focusing heavily on this, wrote the COVID legislation, and like you said, if you just look slightly deeper into it, it's not the case really. He's a lawyer who just made sure in his mind, and probably his mind was wrong in this instance, that it was legal. But I think that when it comes to that legislation, not just in Wales but here in England, I think probably most places on earth that have any kind of functioning democracy, I'm not sure that we do, but we're going to look back on this as one of the biggest mistakes in human history, the thing that absolutely destroyed us all economically, and we're going to look at it back on it and think and surmise that it wasn't even legal.
Yeah.
But will people be punished for it? I don't think so, because their defense.
No one will get punished for this, and I mean, it maybe annoys people to hear me say this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how much you go on Twitter about wanting to see people strung up for it and put in jail and held to account. No one's getting held to account for this. The pharma companies have got watertight and what do you call it?
Contracts and immunity, essentially.
Immunity, yeah. They basically got immunity from prosecution, and all the government officials and the people and even the police and the teachers and everything, they'll just go, we were doing the best we could with the information we had at the time. And everybody's just going to go, yeah, rubber stamp, boom.
They're just going to go,
sweep it under the carpet.
The science changed. Facts changed.
Yeah, the science changed. And no, it didn't.
No, it didn't. But, at the end of the day, if I was to say anything to these people that are so hung up on seeing people punished, I would say this. Don't let it consume you, right? Don't lock yourself in an echo chamber. Go and take your life by the balls. Take every opportunity that you can and live. Because
that's a very good point, Ben. Very good point, and well said, my man. Because I saw someone today, it was hovering around the edge of the thing, and the mouse stopped on it, and it said, such and such mother of 2 children, waiting for the world to get back to normal. Hey, you can't wait for the world to get back to normal. You either go out and live your life and make sure the world gets back to normal for you and your family and your friends and the people that you live with and work with, or you don't, right? But there's no waiting for anything. This is what's wrong with people. Stop waiting to get spoon-fed.
Yeah.
Go out and make up your own mind. It's like that. The one yesterday about the bird that was trying to get a mealworm into its mouth, but it had just been finished being fed by its adults, and it was just running about with its mouth open. And that's what people are like these days. They're running about with their mouth open, waiting for somebody to come along and put a spoon in it that's going to feed them. And that's not how the world works.
No, the old saying rings true today: be the change you want to see in the world. Right? Don't wait for somebody to tell you what to do. That's exactly what lockdown and things were, was people telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Now, personally speaking, this is just me. I didn't want to do it. So what did I do, John? How many times did I go abroad during those lockdowns? I went everywhere. I did what I wanted. Right? And the only way...
And I have to remind you that I travelled through 3 countries
that
were all under full lockdown.
You did? The only way you can do these things and get yourself back to normal and get yourself into a place where you're happy is to go out and do it yourself, right? Yep. I've always said this. To people. And I always said to you, use your eyes. That was what I would say to people. Because when you looked around, there was, your eyes told you a different story. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But please don't get hung up. Don't get caught in a psychological prison even. And do you know what? That's why I used to do. Do you remember the mental health streams I used to do on a Friday night where I'd sit here playing guitar and singing songs to people? Right? That's why I would do that, because it would be to give people a bit of joy. It would be to give people, something else. Even if I was self-deprecating or, people wanted to mock me, if they were having a good time. And it's the same with this show as well. We want to entertain you. We want to give you news, but we want to entertain you. And we will always say these sorts of things. We will say to you, go out, be the change you want to see in the world, and take your life by the balls. Don't get trapped in an echo chamber. Don't get trapped in a prison. Because, people on your side of any situation may end up being just as bad as people on the other side. So, just make sure you don't get stuck in a rut.
Just do it. Yep. Just do it.
And on that note, if you've enjoyed this show, and you do enjoy the shows that we do, then please leave a like, give it a share, and if you've not already, subscribe to the channel, would you? And if you want to go one further, then you could consider donating to us at patreon.com/Chasing Dissent or Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Chasing Dissent. And with that, John,
I'd like to thank you, one and all, for attending this special edition of 145 episodes of Chasing Dissent Live, when we witnessed the demise of Chucky.
And it's not even Halloween yet.
I know. I know. I'm going to have to change my outfit now because Chucky's going to be forgotten by the time Halloween comes up.
And if you want to see us again, join us tonight live at 8 PM on 100 Acre Swamp, our second channel, as we play part 3 of Return to Monkey Island. If you're not subscribed over there, go there. Bye for now!
Bye-bye.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me. And it's good night from him. Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience still. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Tim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night, you know.
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system. You forgot Uranus. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Tim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.